Hello, if you guys don't already know, my name is Alexis Tomlinson, and I would like to talk about the evolution of native boarding schools. So, first, I'm going to talk about the National Conference of Charities, which was in 1874, and it involved these men here. So, initially, it did only involve men, and the idea was to share and improve public and also private charity practices. Initially, it was only men who were involved in the member side of it, and it was from multiple states of people that would come together. Eventually, it did evolve to where women were taking more part in it. It just took some time to get to that point. And then it also evolved from more than just charity work to also a reflection of border focus and also some other aspects of life. So this made it where in this time frame it moved the transition of insanity becoming a medical condition. It also laid the groundwork for future conferences that would address poverty, labor reform, and the professionalization of social work. Um, So, of course, the men that were involved, they would engage ideas, best practices, and address social well-being. Um, and then at that point, the conference became an annual practice. So this practice, within this conference, the practice of the Indian policy, the advantages of mingling Indians with whites came about by Captain Pratt, and he was a captain in the army. He argued that intermarriage and cultural contact between Native Americans and whites could produce more progressive, business-minded, and socially amenable Native leaders. So, at this time, he actually was working with a Native man in this process, although he was still kind of in charge and didn't really 100% go for the native rights. They did try to work together a little bit. So also within this conference time frame, I'm sorry, after this conference time frame, the NCAI was founded, and it is the largest and most representative American Indian and Alaskan Native organization. It's serving the broad interests of tribal governments and communities. So it has its own constitution, and within that, it states that its purpose is to serve as a forum for the unified policy development among tribal governments in order to protect and advance tribal governance and treaty rights, to promote the economic development and health and welfare in Indian and Alaskan Native communities, and lastly, to educate the public towards a better understanding of Indian and Alaskan Native tribes. So this was huge, right? Um, and the reason why I wanted to mention the um, foundation first of the boarding, I'm sorry, excuse me, of the army officer is because while all of these previously happened, this is the same officer who ended up starting the Carlisle Indian Industrial School. And within my research, I did find this video if you guys are able to click and paste the link, and I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the video because of the fact that this video is actually it doesn't have sound, it just has the captions. And I did find out that children were not the only ones who were sent to these schools. Men in their 20s and 30s were also sent, and of course, being forced to be in those barracks. So I don't know if any of you guys had known that. I wanted to ask you guys if you could mention to me some things that you had learned that you weren't aware of. So the Carlisle School also became known as the Experiment School. The reason why it is like that is because even here in quotations, it says the success of it meant that it was like teaching other schools to become this way. Um, and this picture is like a really good representation compared to some of the other pictures because it actually does show the men having to do physical labor work. And the youngest child who started physical labor work was only 9, whereas the women who were involved in this and the girls involved in this were more like homemakers, being that they learned to like iron and cook and clean, those type of things. But along with this, the Native families did not just lose their children, and of course, within that, we all know they lost some of their culture, some of their languages, they lost their people because of deaths and just the way that they were getting treated and malnourished. They also had to split their land up and deal with other people kind of trying to take over their land. So, within the time frame that the Santa Fe, within the time frame that the Carlisle boarding schools were formed, this Santa Fe Indian School was formed, and it's actually still in existence today. So, this school actually does teach about native languages and native cultures, native policies. So all of the schools were eventually turned over to natives after some rights had been justified and some laws were taken into account, to where natives finally did get a little more fair treatment. But I do believe we still have a lot to work on as far as, you know, getting the elementary school level, grade school level, and middle school level to being bilingual with the native languages and expressing that native culture more. So here is my reference list. And although Wikipedia isn't really like the best resourceable and credible place, I did want to mention that I did get some information from there. Thank you.